The Williams family bought their dream home in Tampa, Florida, in March 2021. $450,000 for a four-bedroom house with a backyard where their two kids could play. Combined household income of $85,000 a year. Not rich, but comfortable. Solid middle class. They ran the numbers. Mortgage, insurance, taxes. It all fit. Monthly housing cost came to around $2,800. Manageable. They were living the American dream. Fast forward to January 2026, and that same family is drowning. Same house, same jobs, same income. But everything else has changed. Their monthly housing cost has exploded to over $4,700. That's not a typo. $4,700. Nearly 60% of their gross monthly income is now going to keep a roof over their heads. The crash didn't start with the house losing value. It started in their budget, silently choking them month after month, until there was nothing left to breathe. This is how a housing crash destroys a family budget. And if you think this is an isolated case, you're dead wrong. Millions of American families are living this nightmare right now. Subscribe to Housing Intel because we're about to break down the exact mechanics of financial destruction, step by step, dollar by dollar. Let's rewind to March 2021. The Williams family closes on their home. Purchase price $450,000. They put down 10%, $45,000 in savings they'd been building for years. Mortgage amount $405,000 at a 3.2% interest rate. Monthly principal and interest payment $1,732. Seemed reasonable. Property taxes in Tampa at that time averaged around $4,000 annually for a home in that price range. That's $333 per month. Homeowners insurance was $1,200 per year, or $100 monthly. Add another $150 for HOA fees. Total monthly housing cost $2,315. On their $85,000 annual income, that's $7,083 gross per month. Housing cost represented 33% of gross income. Slightly above the recommended 30% threshold, but not alarming. Financial advisors would call that manageable. The family had room in their budget for car payments, groceries, utilities, kids' activities, even some savings. Life was working. Now let's fast forward to January 2026. Same house, same mortgage balance, roughly $380,000 remaining. Same $1,732 principal and interest payment. Locked in with that beautiful 3.2% rate. But everything else has exploded into a financial inferno that's incinerating their budget. Property taxes in Tampa rose 23.3% between 2021 and 2023 alone. That $4,000 annual bill became $4,932 by 2023. But it didn't stop there. Another reassessment hit in 2025 as Tampa's housing market continued its chaotic swings. By early 2026, the Williams family's property tax bill sits at $5,400 annually. That's $450 per month, up $117 from when they bought. But the real killer is insurance. In March 2021, they were paying $1,200 annually. $100 a month. Easy. By 2026, that number has become a monthly nightmare. Homeowners insurance in Florida has surged over 60% since 2022, according to Bloomberg analysis. Multiple carriers pulled out of the state entirely. Citizens Property Insurance, Florida's insurer of last resort, became the only option for hundreds of thousands of homeowners. The Williams family now pays $4,200 annually for homeowners insurance. That's $350 per month, a $250 monthly increase from 2021. But it gets worse. Flood insurance, which wasn't initially required because their home sat just outside the flood zone, became mandatory in 2024 after FEMA remapped risk areas. Another $1,800 annually, $150 per month. Insurance alone now costs the Williams family $6,000 per year, $500 monthly. That's 5 times what they were paying in 2021. Add it all up. Mortgage principal and interest $1,732. Property taxes $450. Insurance $500. HOA fees $150. Total monthly housing costs $2,832. Wait, that doesn't match the $4,700 mentioned earlier. Where's the missing $1,900 coming from? That's where the real horror story begins. That's where the family budget doesn't just get tight. It collapses completely. The Williams family's gross monthly income is still $7,083. Their base housing cost is $2,832. That's 40% of gross income. Already violating every financial planning rule. Already stretching them dangerously thin. But here's what people don't calculate. Here's what destroys families silently. Utilities in Florida have skyrocketed. Electricity costs surged 37% between 2021 and 2025, as grid strain and fuel costs escalated. The Williams family was paying $180 monthly for electricity in 2021. By 2026, that bill averages $260 in summer months, $190 in winter. Average it out, that's $225 monthly. Water and sewer fees in Tampa increased 22% over the same period, from $75 to $92 monthly. Garbage collection, which used to be included in city taxes, was privatized, another $45 monthly. Internet is non-negotiable with 2 kids doing homework and parents working hybrid schedules. $110 monthly, up from $85 in 2021. Add those utilities to base housing costs. $2,832 plus $225 plus $92 plus $45 plus $110. That's $3,304. But we're still not at $4,700. The remaining $1,400? That's the debt spiral. That's the suffocation phase. That's where the crash destroys lives before it ever shows up in market statistics. The Williams family has 2 car payments. They bought both vehicles in 2020 and 2021. Combined monthly payments, $570. Car insurance for a family of 4 in Florida runs $240 monthly. Gasoline costs roughly $320 monthly for 2 working parents commuting. Groceries for a family of 4 averaged $600 monthly in 2021. By 2026, that number is $850. Food inflation has been relentless. The kids are in elementary and middle school. After-school care, activities, school supplies, sports fees. Another $300 monthly minimum. Cell phone plan for the family, $140. Student loan payments for both parents, combined $320 monthly. These aren't luxuries. These are survival expenses for a middle-class American family. Let's add it up. Housing and utilities, $3,304. Cars and transportation, $1,130. Groceries, $850. Kids' expenses, $300. Cell phones, $140. Student loans, $320. We're at $5,944 in monthly expenses. The family's gross monthly income is $7,083. After federal and state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, Their take-home pay is roughly $5,300 monthly. Read that again. Monthly expenses, $5,944. Monthly take-home pay, $5,300. They're $644 short every single month. And this doesn't include emergency expenses, medical costs, clothing, home repairs, or a single dollar toward retirement savings. How does a family survive when monthly expenses exceed income by over $600? They don't. They drown slowly. First, the savings disappear. The Williams family had $12,000 in emergency savings after buying the house in 2021. That cushion evaporated by mid-2023 as insurance and property taxes started climbing faster than their income. By 2024, they were running a monthly deficit. Credit cards became the bridge. Just a temporary solution, they told themselves. Market conditions would improve. Insurance rates would stabilize. Something would give. Nothing gave. By January 2026, the Williams family carries $23,000 in credit card debt. The average APR on those cards is 21%. Monthly minimum payments alone eat another $480. That's the missing piece. That $480 in credit card minimums pushed their total monthly housing and living costs to over $4,700 just for the essentials, before even servicing the debt they've accumulated trying to survive. They're trapped. Equity in the home has actually increased on paper. The house is probably worth $480,000 now in early 2026, up from $450,000 in 2021. They have roughly $100,000 in equity, but they can't access it. HELOC rates are over 8% in 2026. Borrowing against the home to pay off credit cards just shifts the crisis. And if they tried to sell, real estate commissions and closing costs would eat 6%. That's $28,800. Moving costs, temporary housing, and the nightmare of trying to find something affordable in today's market make selling feel impossible. They're psychologically trapped. The house has become a financial prison. If you're finding this breakdown eye-opening, hit that subscribe button to Housing Intel. This is the kind of real-world analysis that shows you what's really happening behind the statistics. Ring the bell so you never miss intel like this. The psychological damage is devastating. The Williams family isn't delusional. They're educated. They see the numbers. They know they're drowning. Every month is a brutal exercise in triage. Which bill gets paid late? Which subscription gets canceled? Do they cut back on groceries or skip the kids' activities? The stress fractures the marriage. Financial anxiety is the #1 cause of relationship conflict in America. Sleep deprivation, constant arguments about money, shame and guilt about not being able to provide the life they imagined for their children. The crash isn't just financial, it's emotional, psychological, physical. The father develops high blood pressure. The mother's anxiety manifests in chronic headaches. The kids sense the tension even when the parents try to hide it. This is the human cost that never shows up in housing market reports. This is the destruction that happens before foreclosure statistics spike. This is the invisible crash. The Williams family represents millions of American households right now. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Household Economics and Decision-Making, over 40% of American adults would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. Credit card debt in the United States hit $1.17 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2025, the highest level ever recorded. Delinquency rates on credit cards rose to 4.2% in late 2025, up from 2.1% in 2021. Families aren't irresponsible. The math just stopped working. Housing costs exploded while incomes stagnated. Real wages, adjusted for inflation, have barely budged for middle-class workers since 2021. The gap between what homes cost to maintain and what families earn has widened into a chasm that's swallowing millions. Let's talk about the insurance crisis specifically, because this is the silent budget killer that's destroying homeownership across vulnerable markets. Florida is ground zero, but it's spreading. California's wildfire zones are seeing similar insurance explosions. Premiums in some coastal and hillside communities have doubled or tripled since 2022. In Louisiana, homeowners' insurance surged 58% between 2021 and 2025. Texas isn't far behind, with average increases of 43% over the same period. These aren't temporary spikes. These are structural shifts driven by climate risk, reinsurance costs, and actuarial reality. Insurers are repricing risk based on catastrophic weather events that are becoming more frequent and more severe. For homeowners, this repricing is a financial death sentence. You can't opt out of insurance if you have a mortgage. Lenders require it. So families are forced to absorb costs that can add $300 to $700 to their monthly housing expenses seemingly overnight. Property taxes are the other crusher. Municipalities are addicted to property tax revenue. As home values surged during the pandemic boom, local governments reassessed properties and jacked up tax bills. Even as home prices have started correcting in some markets, those inflated assessments remain locked in. Homeowners are paying taxes based on peak valuations, while their actual equity erodes. In markets like Phoenix, Austin, and Boise, property tax bills increased 30 to 40% between 2020 and 2024. For a family already stretched thin, an extra $200 to $400 monthly in property taxes is catastrophic. Some jurisdictions offer homestead exemptions or senior citizen discounts, but middle-income working families often don't qualify for relief. They absorb the full hit. When housing costs consume 45 to 60% of household income, families enter financial survival mode. Retirement savings stop. College funds get raided. Necessary home maintenance gets deferred, which creates future problems. Medical and dental care gets delayed. Prescriptions get skipped. One unexpected car repair or medical bill triggers a crisis that cascades through the entire budget. Families start making impossible choices. Do we fix the AC unit or pay the credit card minimum? Do we take the kid to the dentist or keep the lights on? These aren't hypothetical scenarios. These are daily realities for millions of American families drowning under housing costs that have spiraled out of control. The Williams family is now exploring options that all feel like surrender. Bankruptcy would wipe out the credit card debt but destroy their credit for 7 years. They'd likely lose the house in the process. Loan modification programs exist, but they don't address the insurance and tax crisis. Refinancing the mortgage doesn't help because current rates are nearly 7%. Swapping their 3.2% rate for a 7% rate would add over $800 to their monthly payment. Selling and downsizing might be the only real option. But where do they go? Rental prices in Tampa for a comparable home run $2,700 to $3,000 monthly. They'd be escaping one trap and walking into another. Moving out of state means uprooting the kids, leaving jobs, and starting over in an unfamiliar market that might have its own affordability crisis. This is what the point of no return looks like. It's not a single catastrophic moment. It's a slow-motion financial suffocation that grinds families down month after month until there's nothing left. Some families hit this point and fall into foreclosure. U.S. foreclosure activity increased 14% in 2025 compared to 2024, according to Atom Data Solutions. Over 300,000 properties faced foreclosure filings in 2025. That number is expected to climb in 2026 as more families reach the breaking point. Other families cling on through sheer desperation, sacrificing everything else to keep the house. They become house poor, a term that sounds benign but describes a devastating reality where families own a home but can't afford to live. The crash is already here. It's not coming. It's in the budgets of families like the Williams household right now. It's in the credit card statements ballooning every month. It's in the sleepless nights and constant anxiety. It's in the marriages crumbling under financial stress. It's in the kids who feel the tension but don't understand why. The housing market might show some stability in early 2026 in certain metros. Prices might even tick up in a few markets. But that surface-level stability hides the rot underneath. Families are being crushed. Equity is being eroded by debt. The dream of homeownership is mutating into a nightmare of financial bondage for millions. If you want to avoid this trap, subscribe to Housing Intel right now. We deliver data-driven market intelligence that cuts through the noise and shows you the real risks. Which markets are genuinely affordable? Which ones are financial traps? Where are insurance and tax costs exploding? We break it all down so you can make informed decisions that protect your family's financial future. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. The Williams family bought a house in 2021 for $450,000. By 2026, their monthly housing costs have nearly doubled despite having a fixed-rate mortgage. Insurance exploded. Property taxes surged. Income stayed flat. The budget collapsed. Credit card debt filled the gap until there was no more room left to borrow. Now they're trapped. This isn't a story about financial irresponsibility. This is a story about a system that broke, a housing market that became disconnected from household economics. A middle class being systematically priced out of the American dream they were promised. And the scariest part? The Williams family did everything right. They saved for a down payment. They bought within their budget based on 2021 numbers. They have stable jobs. They didn't speculate or flip houses. They just wanted a home for their kids. And the market destroyed them anyway. This is how a housing crash destroys a family budget. It doesn't start with foreclosure notices. It starts with an insurance bill that doubles, a property tax reassessment that adds $200 monthly, a grocery bill that climbs 20%, a car repair that forces them onto a credit card, a medical expense that drains the emergency fund. One thing after another until the math simply doesn't work anymore. And once the math stops working, there's no easy way out. Families become trapped between a house they can't afford and a market that won't let them escape without massive losses. The pattern is repeating across America right now. Tampa, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Austin, Boise, parts of California, parts of Texas. Anywhere housing costs surged during the pandemic boom and insurance or tax costs have spiked since. Millions of families are living the Williams family's nightmare. Some are months away from crisis. Others are already deep in debt. And the data shows it's getting worse, not better. Credit card delinquencies are rising. HELOC borrowing is surging as families tap home equity just to cover basic expenses. Foreclosure filings are climbing steadily. The crash is happening in slow motion, family by family, budget by budget. Knowledge is your protection. Understanding the true cost of homeownership in 2026 means looking beyond the mortgage payment. It means calculating insurance, property taxes, utilities, maintenance, and having a realistic buffer for the unexpected. It means stress testing your budget against worst-case scenarios. What if insurance doubles? What if property taxes jump 30%? What if you lose a job for 3 months? Can your budget survive those shocks? For the Williams family, The answer was no. And they're not alone. Make sure you're not next. Subscribe to Housing Intel for the market intelligence that could save your financial future. Drop a comment below and tell us, are you feeling the squeeze in your own housing budget? How much have your insurance or property taxes increased since you bought? We read every single comment because your stories matter. The American dream isn't dead, but it's been distorted beyond recognition for millions of families. The Williams family's story is a warning. The crash doesn't always look like plummeting home values and mass foreclosures. Sometimes it looks like a family drowning in their own budget, trapped in a house that's become a financial prison, watching their savings evaporate and their debt pile up month after month after month. That's the crash that's happening right now. And if you don't see it coming, it will destroy you too.